we hear Paul passing on some advice to Timothy. Throughout the season of Easter, we heard of these struggles that Paul mentions here in the Acts of the Apostles. We heard about how he got driven out of cities, how he was beaten with rods, whipped, stoned. His life was endangered many, many times. Love hurts, as the song goes. And we who would love God have to expect some suffering, just as we have to expect some suffering whenever we love. We suffer either because love forces us to go beyond our own selfishness, our own self-centeredness, and because of our sinfulness, that's a painful transition. Or love hurts us because it moves us to such great compassion that when we see someone we love suffering, we suffer with them. And it is no different in the church, in the life of discipleship. When we truly love God, really allowing the Holy Spirit to imbue us with the divine life, we will participate, at least to some degree, in that aspect of God which is offended by sin, which mourns every single creature of his who wanders astray into darkness and wickedness. Or we will face persecution. We will really have to live out the fact that God is number one in our lives, and there is nothing or no one else we can allow to interfere with that. And maybe this brings persecution upon us, or it takes us to a place of abandonment and neglect, where people who once cared about us now find us off-putting. Such is the journey, especially of missionaries and martyrs. And St. Boniface, whom we commemorate today, was both. He was from England, or in his day, probably as it was known, Angleland, of this Anglo-Saxon stock. And as Christianity had been brought to those Angles and Saxons who had migrated from what is today Germany to England, they then realized we have to do something for all of our cousins and our distant relations back in the homeland. So St. Boniface was a part of these missionaries going out, going to the other Germanic peoples to share what they had discovered, to share the love they had found in God, the freedom they had found in the life of discipleship, the enlightenment that comes with the indwelling of the Holy Spirit. And they faced great opposition. Thankfully, St. Boniface did not only face opposition. His successes are the reasons why he is today the patron saint of Germany and also one of the patron saints of Europe. But this is the movement for us, for every Christian. The movement from coming to discover the love, the freedom that the gospel brings for ourselves personally, and then moving forward, outward, beyond ourselves, connecting to others in the church, going forward beyond the church to share the gospel with those who have not yet heard it. It is a journey of love, which means it is a journey of sacrifice and reward, a journey of joy and of suffering, of setbacks and of victory. Through the intercession of St. Boniface, may we have the grace to persevere in that same journey, following after the Lord in his footsteps.